Reddit, what's your I'm sorry, I thought this was America story? I put my barrels out Tuesday morning for trash pickup that afternoon and brought them back in late in the morning on Wednesday. On Friday, I got a letter in the mail from my hoa with a freaking photo of my barrels in the street warning me that I was in violation for leaving them out overnight. That's how they spend my hoa dues. Nothing says power trip quite like your middle-aged neighborhood mom hoa committee chair leaving you letter after letter threatening fines on any provocation. I replaced the stone tile area around my pool on my own and got asked by a neighbor if I was licensed to do it. I was like, ooh up. Whips out pocket Constitution, how's this for a license, Stalin. Went to a Six Flags in another state, tried to buy a beer, was told they wouldn't accept my driver's license and I should have brought a passport. Working 2 or 3 summers ago, and I'm ringing up a customer's order. Alright, your total comes out to $23.45. Woman hands me euros. Excuse me, mom, I can't accept this as payment. These are euros. I figured she just got back from Europe. Maybe it was an honest mistake. Why not? We are in the United States, so we only accept American cash. Or you could of course pay by credit card. Why don't you accept euros? Because we're in the United States, and that's company policy. But euros are stronger. I understand, but we still can't accept them here. But why not? Because this is America. I need to speak to your manager. This is unacceptable. Gets manager. Woman repeats the same act with my manager. Woman finally shuts the frick up and pays by credit card, as I had suggested at the start. Take M at 1. When the hoa decided that we could not throw trash away in the trash cans next to the park pool area, I'm not talking about giant trash bags, I mean pizza boxes and food and such that one might have when at this area. Why? Because the self-appointed chairman of the recreation department doesn't like taking out the trash more than once a week. I'm sorry I put trash in the trash can. I'll just leave it on the ground next time. There was this shady gas station down the road from work towards the bad side of town. I stopped in one day and bought something with cash. I got 10 cents back in change. I dropped the dime in the free change can. The cashier flipped on me and told me I couldn't leave anything but pennies in there because people will literally fist fight over any silver change in it. I was in upstate New York and we accidentally crossed the border to Canada and stopped at a gas station, and when I tried to pay for something they wanted Canadian dollars, and at that moment I realized I wasn't in the US anymore, so I simply apologized, saying the line "I'm sorry, I thought this was America," and then kindly went on my merry way back to New York. As a Canadian, this made me chuckle. I used to belong to a flying club where I had access to several very nice aircraft that I could rent. On more than one occasion, I flew a $500,000 airplane through busy airspace among airliners and private jets only to be told at my destination that I may not rent a Toyota Corolla because I was under 25 years of age. When I was in high school, a German foreign exchange student stayed with us for a semester. I live in one of the large metropolitan cities in Texas, and one Saturday I took him downtown so he could get a taste of big city America and what it looked like. Obviously, he was taking lots of pictures. American cities look different from German ones, so he was your typical tourist, snapping away at parks, public transit, stores, and of course, the skyscrapers. Some butthole police lady comes up and starts harassing him and threatening to confiscate his camera. According to her, it was illegal to photograph skyscrapers without some kind of permit or journalist identification because of the 9/11 WTC attacks. His English was good but not great, so he was really thrown off balance by the sudden aggression. I told the policewoman, "Mom, he's from Germany and he's just taking in the sights. I'm sorry, I've never heard of that law." She just told him to put his camera away and we better not let her see him with it out again. He was absolutely floored after she left. He couldn't believe that a police officer would behave that way. I just shrugged and said, "Welcome to post 9/11 America." This was in the year 2009. I also googled photography laws in my city when I got home, and the law the policewoman was citing did not exist. The only law about photographing buildings was federal buildings, not buildings in general. My grandfather, his brother, and a friend were kicked out of an all-you-can-eat chicken shack in the 50s for eating too much chicken. When they refused to leave as it was all you can eat, the owner called the law and had them escorted out. My friend is actually banned from a Golden Corral for eating too much food. He ate something like a whole chicken, 2 pizzas, a meatloaf, etc. The dude is actually really skinny too. What's weird is that the ban says he can't enter if he's alone, thinking he won't eat as much around other people. To quote him, "The fools think I have dignity and self-respect." In college I was living in a rented house that was built in 1973. It had an asphalt driveway from the street to the garage that had been widened with gravel up one side that went next to the garage. The city sent us a letter ordering us to remove the gravel. Called the city and asked about it, and they said any house within city limits built after 1967 was not allowed to have a gravel driveway. Asked the landlord about it and he said the gravel driveway had been there since before he owned it, which had been 13 years at that point. Landlord never removed it and we never heard from the city again for the next year and a half we lived there. So at least the city didn't care that much, but still, who cares if the driveway was widened with gravel? This was in Manhattan. KS. Visited London. Got really bad chapped lips. Went to some supermarket. Asked where the chapstick was. Got a crazy look. Had to motion putting chapstick on. British chap light bulbed. "Oh, you mean lip balm? Didn't realize chapstick is an American thing." I live in a more conservative part of NYC which is predominantly white. Generally I speak English since it's my first language, but sometimes I speak to my parents in Chinese if we are shopping and they don't understand what something means and they want me to translate it for them. So one day, we are at Costco and my mother needed me to translate. Generally her English comprehension is pretty good at the basic working level, but the more advanced words, she still has trouble with. So we are talking in Chinese at this point and a man walking by with his family overhears us. And he mutters, "If you're going to be in this country, you have to speak English." And I say, "I'm sorry, I thought this was America. We could speak whatever language we want." I could tell he was taken aback at the fact that I spoke fluent English, but that didn't stop him from going off on a tirade about how this place is being taken over by the Chinese. My mother and I just walked away because honestly, you know when you're arguing with a lost cause. I can't wait to move out of this borough. Was traveling from Michigan to Kansas for my first duty station in the Air Force. Had to stop to sleep in BFE, Iowa due to military rules on how far you can travel in a day. Got told I couldn't get a hotel room because I was too young, 20 at the time, and they have had issues with local underage kids having parties in hotel rooms. After some back and forth and an off-duty sheriff getting involved, he asked, "Son, what are you going to do if you don't get this room?" "Find a McDonald's parking lot and sleep in my car." To the hotel manager, "James, you really going to make a vet sleep out in the cold because you won't give him a room?" Things went pretty smooth after that. They offered the room at a discount but the military was paying for it, so America. You can shoot guns, do pee, and join the army, but God forbid you want to gamble, drink, book a hotel, or rent a car. Every single time I leave Colorado and have to drive through Kansas I get pulled over. Every time. On the third trip I finally asked the state trooper what the deal was and he basically said it's because of all the weed coming into their state from ours and that having a Colorado license plate is like advertising to get pulled over. I said that's cool but asked if they could ask with a German accent next time they want to see my papers. The way my state, Oklahoma, has been freaking out about the legal MJ in Colorado, I've wondered if they have a roadblock out that way. Dear America, what the frick is a homeowners association and WHO thought this was a good idea? Sincerely, the frick, man. Finding out from our county that we needed a permit to have a camper on own land, I actually laughed at the zoning guy. He was serious. Thought I would add, we were building a house on the property at the time, on 145-acre land. Neighbors weren't affected. I was told that sometimes people get their undies in a bundle about neighbors. These are the same people who move out into the country and complain about manure smell or farmers harvesting at night for a couple of days a year. When I was little, people in the country left their neighbors alone. But now you have social justice warriors taking over and this is the crap you get. That crap doesn't even count as a dwelling, what the frick. Woke up in a little motel once. Beautiful day outside. Went to the lobby area and had some danishes and coffee. Was on a road trip and idly wondering how far I'd gotten the night before. After pulling out and heading on my way, I kept thinking the road signs looked kind of funny. Drove across a bridge and way off to my right there was an old abandoned rail bridge that had rotated and then rusted into place. There were some kids climbing it and jumping into the water off it. On a whim I decided to park and join them. After swimming for a bit I asked one of the kids where I was. Turns out I was in a little town in Canada. The day before I decided it was just too damned hot, so instead of driving east I drove north until it was cool enough to be bearable, and this ended up being in Canada. I like this story. Made me want to buy a coffee and start driving without a GPS. On the 4th of July, police kicked me out of a parking garage for watching fireworks. I basically live in a shopping center, so the only good place to watch the fireworks is on the top floor of a parking garage. The cops went around threatening to arrest anyone who was standing around in a public place, so I decided to just trudge home and listen to the fireworks and cheering from my apartment instead of risking arrest to enjoy them for myself. Welcome to America. I still have trouble wrapping my head around the idea of living in a fancy mixed-use development. Just today was told that I can't make a life-size snow model of a T-34 in my parking lot because they were going to truck the snow away, saying it's blocking people's cars and a hazard to the community since it's in a fire lane and crushing small children neath its inexorable icy tread. Fascists. I was an insurance agent for a while. I wrote a policy for someone that had a driver's license from the US Virgin Islands. A few days later I got a call from my underwriter blasting me for not knowing international IDs are unacceptable. I was speechless. I could not even correct her. I hung up and called her manager. On a recent trip to Canada, I flew to North Dakota and drove across the border. As per usual, the tsar freaked out that I had a liquid container larger than 3 ounces in my bag and told me I either had to throw it away or check the bag. But when I got to the Canadian border and was asked if I had any weapons, I realized that I had the mace on my keychain in my purse. After telling the border guards personal mace is not allowed in Canada, they proceeded to hold the mace for me at the checkpoint until I returned. The best part is that the mace was in my purse on the dang plane. The tsar missed it completely, but was very concerned about my shampoo. To me, this illustrates the key difference between American and Canada. TLDR. The tsar will confiscate shampoo but overlook mace, an actual weapon, while Canadian border guards will hold mace for you while you travel around Canada. When I moved to Virginia and discovered that the government there controls all the liquor stores, and apparently they're not the only state, my response was, what's this, Nazi bulls? I thought this was America. I find it ironic how common it is for Republican states. My friends, both white, were playing Pokemon Go at like midnight or 1 AM when it hit its peak and stopped on the sidewalk, sat down and were checking their catches. Unfortunately, they sat on a sidewalk in front of a dealership. Still on sidewalk though, a cop pulled up and told them they looked suspicious and that they looked like they were about to steal a car. Mind you, it is midsummer, they are not wearing masks or anything and were under a street light in plain sight. The cop frisked them and told them they need to go home or would get arrested. To which my friend replied, no. I am a grown but man I'ma continue playing Pokemon. I thought that frisking and whatnot was completely unfounded. Every time I'm illegally searched by the cops, like the one time I pulled out of Wawa, was pulled over a block later, and immediately asked for my license, registration, and permits to carry, that ended in a search for a gun I didn't have. Then there was the time the cop didn't like that we made eye contact. So he made an illegal U-turn to pull me over because my inspection stickers were peeling, so he proceeded to search my car because there are a lot of illegal drugs and weapons being moved up and down this road. Then the cop he flagged down to watch me while he conducted his search decided to tell me so anyway, TLDR about 75% of the encounters I've had with police. And in case anyone is wondering, I'm a 30-year-old white man. Went to see a show at the United Center. Had to go through security. They yelled at my 69-year-old father for not declaring that he had a cell phone in his pocket when they were already doing a pat down instead of sending him through the metal detector because he was wearing an external defibrillator. Pretty sure your job is to keep weapons out, not to harass a sick old man. Not Murica, but Straya. We had a teacher who hated being called mate. Frick knows why. One day one of the smallest most innocent kids in the whole year dropped a mate on him and the teacher just flipped out straight away. I am not your mate. I am the teacher. The kid looked him straight in the eyes and said, we're in Austria. Everyone's me mate. This kid deserves a diamond reward. After slinging Girl Scout cookies with 4 hyperactive 10-year-olds. Other people's children no less, not even my own. For 4 hours straight, I went to deposit of the money into the troop account. Girl Scout bylaws say that you need to deposit money in the form you get it. You are not supposed to trade out coins the customers use to pay with paper money from your own purse kinda thing. Well, the bank said they couldn't accept the $4 in loose coins. They only accept rolled coins. I looked around and was like, this is a bank, right? She took the coins. The local hoa tried to make my parents pay a $2,000 fine over having their garden out front. Reported the one who admitted to sending it to the city. Turns out this person basically extorted money out of elderly for a living. City disbanded hoa and he was sent to prison on multiple charges. Happy ending. Good. At my high school, all the students were guided into the gym by police officers, and we could not leave until drug dogs checked every one of our backpacks. So I would have to say being a part of the hundreds of students being detained and searched for no reason. Got pulled over and searched for drugs because we were 4 young kids, 2 of which had long hair, and the back windows were slightly fogged up due to it raining and being very humid out. The cop's excuse was that I kept driving left of the yellow line median, which I knew was false. Especially since they focused hard on whether or not we had anything in the car that they needed to know about and insisting that they search my car. Like, I'm sorry, I thought this was America, where I have the freedom to drive down the fricking road without being stereotyped. But that happens much too often to people in this country, so what's new? Hoa instructing me that my house needed landscaping in the front lawn area. I live in a rental. I literally do not have a front lawn. It is just a driveway. Hoas are just excuses for suburbanites to act like Nazis. Oh god, reminds me of my second job. So, I'm working at a concession stand at a major theme park that has a globe as a logo in California, and I found out the hard way that I get skin rashes if I wear rubber gloves for too long. But my managers always understood and put me either in cashier or beverages, which neither position requires me to put on gloves, and has even put in a request to transfer me to gift shops or another Anyway, the general manager stopped by and asked me to help with the lunch rush, and I politely tell him my situation. He doesn't care, since my hand is still healing. I even show him my hands and even a doctor's note. He still ushers me to the hot food section to the chagrin of even the supervisor. Of course, being 15, I angrily tell him, last time I checked, this was America. I have my rights, whelp. I earned my right to get fired, I suppose. I would think that you could have said, last time I checked, this was America. We have ONS rights. You know, you would have earned your right to sue the workplace for discrimination. This is America, after all. I once had a couple of tourists ask me where was a good place to watch the 4th of July fireworks. I said, you know you're in Canada, right? I went to pay my rent at a Chase Bank where my landlord held his account. I pulled the money out of their ATM in the lobby and took it up to the desk with a deposit slip. I'm sorry mom, we can't accept cash here. Wah. This pisses me off too. Apparently it's all a part of some anti-money laundering regulations that Chase enforces. The answer, as I have observed, is to write a check or get a bank check in the name of the recipient and deposit into their account. I despise Chase Bank for this and many other reasons. Getting searched to enter a 4th of July firework show. Got patted down and had my kids patted down as well as diaper bag and GFS purse checked. Then got scowled at because I tried bringing a monster in that I was holding. They tried confiscating it, so I said frick you to the guy and chugged it. Have not been to a firework show in over 3 years because of that one. I read kids, diaper bag, monster and thought they weren't going to let you bring in your toddler. I had $100 in assorted change that I collected over the course of last year. In order to deposit the full amount, I decided to roll the change myself instead of using the Coinstar machine at my credit union. The teller told me they do not accept rolled currency. I would have to use the Coinstar machine. I went to 3 different credit unions and the shared branching network to try to make a deposit of the full $100 and all of them told me I needed to use the Coinstar machine. So, it seems like the value of the American dollar has been reduced by 3 to 10% when it comes in the form of coinage, according to these credit unions in South Florida. Not my personal experience, but about 6 years ago I overheard this interaction between one of my cashiers at a big box retailer and a customer. Woman, how much is this shirt? Cashier, $12.99. Woman, what? That is so expensive. Would you sell it for $5? Cashier, wait, what? Number? Woman, okay. How about $8? Can you go as low as $8? Cashier, I'm sorry, you aren't understanding that I can't change the price on this. Woman, okay. The most I will pay is $10. And you can throw in this scarf for me, how does that sound? Cashier, how does no sound? We are not bartering in some foreign marketplace, this is America. And you know what? You aren't getting this shirt or this scarf. Because clearly they are out of your budget today. The cashier had already put in his 2-week notice, so I wasn't going to say anything. Personally, I found the whole thing quite hilarious and the woman shut up, bought a few things and left. When I got hammered at my son's little league baseball game, got into a fight with the parent and got arrested by the cops. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was America. Well, I'm Canadian and someone bumped into me and didn't say sorry, which triggered the same response in my head except with Canada. I went to open a bank account for my legalization group in Idaho. It was shut down because the federal government won't allow you to advertise promoting the legalization of cannabis. Something free speech. I'm sorry, I thought this was America. That's an open and shut case for an appeal. Contact the ACLU. Driving from FL to NYC, had my radar detector set on the windshield, scans for police vehicles on the road, entered Virginia and a big sign read, radar detectors are illegal in the state of Virginia. When I was in high school, this kid was moving away and decided to do something freaking legendary before he left. He titty twisted my physical science teacher. Things almost got violent. The teacher had him by the collar of his shirt and was all on his face, threatening him while the kid continued to try and titty twist to this 40-year-old man who literally did nothing wrong, while saying this is America, I have rights. Back then I thought the whole incident was badass and hilarious, but looking back on it, the kid was kind of a freaking butthole. I went to a restaurant with my family in Scotland. I was going to order a pop and asked my cousin if they had free refills. She asked me why would a refill be free. Not long ago, Louisiana's DMV offices stopped accepting cash for any transaction. Excuse me, but legal tender, all debts? That policy was partially reversed not long afterward, but you still can't pay reinstatement fees in cash. Legal for all debts, but you hadn't incurred a debt. Agree it's bad for a government entity not to accept cash though. I lived in a gated community in Florida that had this absolutely ridiculous hoa. I was a cop at the time, so I didn't have a ton of dough. For some reason, we weren't allowed to have our garage doors open. Like we could open them to pull out and go in, and that was it. And we weren't allowed to park in our own driveways. My truck didn't look the best, and it was too long to fit in the garage. So I had to park at the community pool and walk home from there. That was a 2-mile walk. I was mowing my lawn one time, and my garage door was open because I was gonna put my lawnmower back in it when I was done. Makes sense, right? Then some really affluent white dude, walking his dog, stops me and says your garage is open. I'm aware. I'm mowing my lawn. I'll close it when I'm done. Your garage is open. I'll close it when I'm done. I'll close it for you. No, you won't. Who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? I'm not going to lie, that did the early 90s equivalent of triggered me, so I just snapped. Here's my license, I say as I flip him my middle finger. Butthole. I got a fine, but whatever. 2 weeks later his kid threw a party while he was out of town. And guess which cop answered the call? Oh come on. Don't leave us hanging. You have to finish this story. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.